So, hello, wild women, wise women, and witches. So, hopefully, you've checked out the Dancers of the Circle content for today. And it has a presentation on two different ways to make black salt. Um, it was actually something that I needed for the ritual I want to do with you this evening. So, be sure to check that out. Two very easy ways, kitchen witch ways, as I like to call them. But what I'm going to demonstrate this evening, it's another table spell. If you're familiar with the Dancers of the Circle material, you can go back and check for some of this. Table spells are such an easy way to do a magical rite in very limited space. I have roommates, so you might hear a cough, or you might hear traffic going outside because I live in the city. So some of us have really limited space. So these are table spells. They're so easy to do. I will be showing you a picture at this moment in time of the way I have these circles set up as far as my quarter elementals and such. So what we're going to do this evening is what's called a transformation rite. It's where we take energy that has been negative, had negative impacts on our life, and do the alchemical process of disintegration. Which can be very necessary sometimes, and it's definitely necessary in our shadow work and our alchemical work. But I felt, especially now, that something like this was really important to offer when there's so much confusion and so much emotion and energy going nowhere because there's nothing to send it to. We're kind of helpless in certain situations. And this is one of those ritual and spiritual practice ways to take that energy and do something with it. So it's just a simple transformation rite. And I'm going to share with you my altar tools so you can see what I'm using from the picture. First of all, for the east, I'm actually using a mortar and pestle, and my incense is Palo Santo. Love the smell of this. This is my Eastern Elemental Air representation. Just using a simple white candle for the fire. In the West, interestingly enough, last time there was a new moon in Cancer, I charged a little bit of water. That particular moon has the powers of dissolution. So I've used it for this type of ritual when things need to be disintegrated or dissolved. And so, if I can get that lid off, this is what I'm going to be using in my chalice for this table rite as well. And a lovely little chalice I've had for a very long time. And then finally, my black salt. This is also the cauldron of salt that I keep on my altar for Hecate, and Hecate is the energy that I'm going to be invoking. So, the second part of this ritual, the body of the ritual, is going to involve using the wonderful tool of bay leaves, and I didn't bring them out with me. But everybody, I'm sure, is familiar with what a bay leaf looks like. They are so good for this type of work. So, what I've made is a purpose jar. You can call it a magic jar, you can call it a spell jar, but it has a very specific purpose. And for me, what this says right here is evolution through dissolution, or I might say disintegration. Evolution through disintegration, because water disintegrates, fire disintegrates. But the idea, disintegrating the energy like you do in alchemical work to its most purified state, and then that ash is used for magic for the reconstitution of the alchemical body. So I've got a little Mars symbol because of what I'm using this jar for. And then some sigils that I made using Austin Spare's method, where you take just the consonants from a phrase and make a symbol out of it. So that's evolution, and that's disintegration. Very simple, easy magic jar. This one in particular is for healing the patriarchal wounds, and that is the purpose of what we're doing this evening and what I'm demonstrating this evening. And fire for disintegration, since we are going to actually burn the bay leaves. I'm not going to burn probably but just one, But just to give you an idea, I'll pull some of these out in just a second. So very simply what I do is I start in the north when I'm doing this type of work. I will sprinkle my black salt around my table circle. I will light the incense stick, or a nice little Palo Santo, holy wood, and go around my circle. And you know, for this type of work, I'm more interested in getting motion, so I'm going in a diazo direction. I need activation. Okay. And then, of course, just a real quick turn of the flame around the circle. A little bit of our dissolution water around the circle. And I've got a cloth down that can be washed. So I have set my 4 quarters. I have earth, air, water, and fire present in my sacred circle. You may say a quarter invocation if you choose. What I'm going to do now is actually taking a peek at one of my newer books of shadows. I'm kind of ADHD, so I have several. But I thought I would share with you the prayer to Hecate, which is something that I would read during this type of ritual. Hail unto thee, who art Hecate, goddess at the crossroad, queen of magic, shadow anima. Blessed art thou, maiden of the dark moon, sister of Persephone, my sacred sister. Crone Heka, meet me at the crossroads of maiden, mother, and sage, blossom, bloom, and seed. Let your light shine from the darkness, you who art the keeper of the keys, the guardian of the threshold, hearth fire in the darkness, creatrix, Hecate, my guide, Enodia, Soteria, Gatonia. And that's my dog, neighbor dog, that's Bailey. She's just singing along. She's an adorable boxer. So let me see, what is the what is the first leaf that I pulled out? So what I do is I take a red thick Sharpie pen, and that says Patriarchy, right? And I have a beautiful brass cauldron. I have some water over here ready just in case, and I will disintegrate the Patriarchy. If you listened to my new moon video, then you probably heard me saying, burn down the Patriarchy, burn down the Patriarchy, dismantle the Patriarchy, dismantle the Patriarchy. And there it goes. Like you say, you have to be careful. I held that on a little too long just to do the chant. But brass cauldrons, they're awesome. I will want to do these as well. And I'm probably going to move it outside just because we have a smoke alarm and I don't want to set it off. But for instance, let me just read you some of the ones that I have. And with the tragic events for the school children, and just school children across the country, I can imagine how terrified they are to go to school, or the suffering that parents and family are feeling right now. So some of that's been added into my Dismantle the Patriarchy jar. But I'm just going to read you some of the other ones. You can write your own. See, this one says corruption in leadership, good old boy mentality. Remember, I live in Knoxville, Tennessee. Orthodoxy, NRA, greed, violent ideologies. I've got one more with me here. And fundamental Christianity. So you can see the whole purpose of this jar is a very specific intent. And when we can't do much else, this is something we can do. And the idea being that as you're lighting that, whatever harm or suffering that particular thing has caused, you channel that emotion, all that energy that needs to go somewhere, because we're pretty helpless. But magic can be a very powerful tool, especially if a lot of people are doing it. And project your emotion, direct it and focus, and knowing that you have to focus it and be firm about where it's going and the suffering that is meant to be relieved from your actions, and just stay focused on that and power that and channel that energy into each thing that you burn. You could have one for sexual trauma, like, no, I no longer want to feel bad about my body, or I don't want to shy away from touch, those fears that we have. You can have a fear jar that you just burn and start releasing that energy, and it doesn't happen overnight. We all know that, but you signal to the universe, and you get this reciprocity back when you ask for healing. So this rite of transformation was intentionally about the patriarchy. I was thinking, well, maybe I should make it more individualized, but the truth of the matter is that our issues still go back and stem from a lack of the feminine divine, a lack of faith in things like intuition and compassion and being kind, and the actual strength in being weak, that kind of thing. So thank you, wild women, wise women, and witches, for being with me this evening. Simple table spell, just put your hallows down, consecrate your circle with those elementals. I love this big brass bucket. Finally, what I will do is I will take these ashes and mix them with salt, and they will become dark goddess salt for rituals like this, for rituals of sexual healing from trauma, for rituals for protection, for barriers, that kind of thing that we all need to set. Whatever, it'll become dark goddess, black salt. So go check out that Dancers of the Circle video on the method for mixing something like that together. And I appreciate you being a part of this journey with me, and I look forward to sharing something new with you next week.